Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to tonight's video for 31 Nights of Horror. Today we're going to be talking about the classic Child's Play. Child's Play came out in 1988 and it's been scaring people for a pretty long time. I feel like this is one of those movies that as a child I always heard other people talk about it scaring them, that Chucky's really scary, and it got to a point where I remember when I was really young, sometimes I'd be scared to look up like Chuck E. Cheese for example, because I thought the Chucky doll would pop up, and I didn't actually see this movie until I was a little bit older. And you know, it's really funny because I wonder if any of you guys saw this way younger and it scared you to death, because you know, growing up and seeing this a little bit older, I've always thought that this movie was kind of pretty funny. Like, Chucky has never been terrifying to me. He's just kind of been a little annoying dude that I'm like, can't you guys just kick him and be done with? But yeah, today we're going to be talking about Child's Play. Pretty excited to end 80s week with this one. It's a pretty classic one, and you know, it's about time that I talked about it on my channel. I've seen it a couple of times now, and I've always really liked this movie. I think it's very enjoyable, and I'm excited to just get into all the details of what I like and what I don't like as well. So if you guys have seen Child's Play, let me know what you guys think about this movie down below. I'd really love to hear what each and every one of you have to say. And if you haven't seen Child's Play, I highly recommend you do so, even if you are scared of dolls, because trust me, I think this is not one of the scariest of the doll movies. So I just want to start off by saying that this movie is pretty ridiculous in nature. If you think about it, it's a murderous doll, but this doll is like not, I guess, like an Annabelle type doll. It's literally like a children's toy doll that just turns evil, and it's kind of like a criminal, a real life criminal gets inside the doll type of thing. So, you know, pretty ridiculous in nature, and I think the movie understands that, and I think the movie throughout just like knows that, hey, we're just gonna go all out and make this crazy as hell, and like, you just are gonna have to accept it, because a lot of the death scenes are really funny. It, you know, sometimes it can be a turnoff sometimes, because I'm like, how the heck are these people dying with this doll? Because the doll is literally like probably the size of my dog or smaller, like this tall maybe, you know what I mean? So I'm like, how is this doll doing all of this? Actually, I think it's a little bit taller, because it was kind of like Andy's size. I don't know, I can't tell heights, but point is, not much bigger than a little kid. So it's funny to know that like this doll is doing these things to these people. Like, the very first murder literally happens and you're like, how did that happen? Like, I feel like sometimes the deaths in this movie feel more extra than they should be, but I think it also kind of works in a way because it is so ridiculous, and you kind of just have to sit back and kind of like enjoy it and let it be ridiculous in itself. I think the movie does get a little bit too ridiculous, and I'm just gonna kind of say something that I don't love about this movie is how hard it is to kill this doll. Like, obviously we don't want a doll to be killed super easily. You know, I made the joke at the beginning about why don't you guys just kick it, which it should work in nature, but whatever. Anyway, in this movie, this doll literally survives everything, and that's kind of a running thing at the end of the third act, where they're just keeping trying, and then he's like literally melting. The doll is literally like not even a doll at this point, and then it's still doing things, and I feel like there it just kind of stretched it a little bit too far, you know, where the ridiculous got a little bit too ridiculous for my nature and taste. So just warning you, I feel like this is a very different type of doll movie because it just like keeps it going, and also, you know, Chucky talks, so that thing too is kind of annoying. That's Chucky in a nutshell, the little Chucky doll in a nutshell. But I really want to talk about probably my favorite thing about this movie, and it's Andy. I think he's played really well by Alex Vincent. I think this is one of the best child performances and one of the best child characters ever, honestly, because the little kid can act. He acts like a real little kid, and he's also not stupid. Basically, the whole movie essentially, you know, for the most part, we're with Andy, and Chucky and Andy have like this sort of relationship. Chucky makes Andy do things. Andy, you know, he always tells his truth, which I also really like. He always was saying, this doll is insane. He said, I can't say these things because you'll kill me. And you know, we have the typical nobody believes him, and this kid is just great. Like, he's really great at acting scared and just acting like a real little kid too. And also, I feel like every single time I watch a horror movie, anytime kids are being harmed, I get like even more scared, and I just like have more of an attachment to the movie. But sometimes, I won't lie, in some horror movies I really don't care much about the little kids, but I feel like in this movie he just like really got me to care about him. And you know, it's really sad if you think about it, because at the beginning of the movie we start off on his birthday, and he's really excited to receive a Chucky doll. Like, he really wants one of these good guy dolls, and kind of seeing the progression of that to then him eventually being like, no, this doll is evil. You know, him having that realization. He's a really smart kid, and I think he just carried the movie. And this leads me to my other negative that I have, I think the movie should have just stuck with Andy and Chucky pretty much the whole time. We get like the mom's perspective and then the detective cop's perspective too. There's a chunk in this movie that is not particularly my favorite. It's essentially when Andy gets sent to like a hospital, mental, I don't even know what it is, like just a hospital thing because they think he's pretty much insane. And then for that bit, Andy kind of disappears. We don't know much about him. We're brought back to him when Chucky eventually goes to, you know, find him and attack him and stuff. But I just think we should have stayed with Andy the whole time. I think that little portion of it was, in my opinion, dragged the movie down a little bit for me. And I just think it's because I love Andy. Like, I think when Andy's on screen, the movie shines. And it also makes it scarier. Because like I'm saying, this movie I don't think is scary. But I think when you have this Chucky doll attacking this little kid, it feels more like a fight that can be won by Chucky, if that makes sense. Whereas if it's like with the mom or the cop guy, like, you guys can kick him and probably run away. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, this kid is probably gonna struggle a lot more, even though he's much smarter than literally all of the adults in this movie. But I think that dynamic just works, and I think Alex Vincent as Andy he literally did such a good job that I think it carries the rest of the movie. And I also think the other acting is pretty fine, but again, I just think Andy's up here. Like, I literally love that kid. Also, he's adorable, but you know, I just think he's a pretty great character, and it just drives the entire movie for me. And the kills of this movie, I've kind of talked about them briefly. I don't think they're the best kills ever in any horror movie. I think they happen a little bit too fast at the beginning, and I think this movie's pretty short too, and I kind of always wish this movie was a little bit longer, because I kind of wish we had that like transformation of like the little boy with his toy and, you know, develop that a little bit further and then gone into evil Chucky, because I think it happens way too quickly at the beginning, in my opinion, because you don't really have any time to establish or like set expectations for this family that this is a good doll. Like, Andy pretty much from the very beginning knows there's something wrong with this doll, and I think we should have like stretched that out a little bit more. But the kills, I think, are just funny, like a lot of them. The doll's doing all of these things, it's pretty hilarious, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about it. There's not too many kills too, I think, like not any really exciting kills or anything, but yeah, that's pretty much that. But this movie I think is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's pretty out there, but I think it's fun. I think the design of Chucky 2 is really cool, and the way his face changes when he's like in his evil mode, he's like his little good guy mode, and then when he's gonna like start calling people bitch and stuff like that, you know, his face completely changes, and he just looks like a really ugly doll, but it just fits very well. And I think the actual storyline and plot of this movie is pretty interesting and creative if you think about it. Like, this guy, essentially, this criminal, gets into the doll, and there's like voodoo stuff going on here, and we don't even like fully understand it. At least I don't really fully understand it, but I just think it's cool, and I think the story is paced pretty well, even though there's some moments where I think it slows down. And, you know, it's a very short movie. Like, if you don't have much time to watch a pretty long horror movie, this one's a very simple one that you can put on, and it's literally over in less than 90 minutes. I think it's one of the most enjoyable horror movies, I think, and this is a franchise that I've always wanted to continue watching, because there's so many movies of them, and I've heard that so many others are pretty great as well. So one day, maybe next year, we'll do a Child's Play franchise binge and talk about them in detail and stuff. But thank you all so much for listening and watching today's review. I hope you guys really enjoyed just hearing my thoughts on Child's Play. It's about time I talked about it on my channel, because I've seen this movie a couple of times now, and it's just a lot of fun, and I always like talking about fun horror movies. And if you guys are new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe if you like movie reviews in general. In the month of October, I'll be posting every single day, and you guys can binge 31 Nights of Horror so far. If you guys haven't caught up on the videos, there'll be a link for that down below or somewhere above, so you guys can click on that. And I also want to say thank you all so much for 1.2k subscribers. Literally really excited about that, having a lot of more of you guys subscribe and find my channel and join our movie community over here. So thank you all so much for subscribing, and I hope to catch you all in the next video. Bye everyone!